We've all been there in property management. You buy an AI tool for maintenance, but your automation plateaus at 60%, shifting the manual workload from the owner to the coordinator instead of actually solving the problem. The day-to-day pressure is still there, it's just sitting on a different desk. My guests today are here to show you the way out of that trap. In this episode, we're sharing a powerful webinar replay featuring Brian Bean, broker owner, and Kogi Hoyos, operations manager at Dream Big Property Management, alongside Vendoroo's chief PM, David Normand. This conversation is special because we go way back. Kogi actually used to work on the inside here at Vendoroo, back when the platform was just 5 people in a virtual room trying to map out the future of AI in maintenance. Fast forward a few years, Brian made the brilliant move to hire him away to run operations at Dream Big. But despite Kogi knowing the system inside and out, they still found themselves caught in that classic 60% ceiling, where they were doing too much manual heavy lift. Look, if you're already using AI, but you just have this sneaking suspicion that you're barely scratching the surface of what it can actually do, this conversation is exactly why you need to tune in. Welcome to the Property Management Frame Breakers podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, and I am here to introduce you to the folks in the property management space that have broken the frame of what you may believe was possible. This podcast is presented by Vendoroo. It is your all-in-one AI solution for resolving your maintenance needs. Let's go. All right, welcome, everybody. I am assuming that if you are on this call, you are more than likely have been born inside the United States and you haven't prioritized watching the World Cup opening match over this thing. And I appreciate you being here. And I really appreciate Brian and Kogi for being here. Our goal today is to really highlight this aha moment that we see happening over and over again when Vendoroo users go from AI, checking the box, pretty good, to this is what I actually wanted. And it all happened here together with the Dream Big Property Management team in like one crucible moment where they talked to David over this call. We're going to give you that whole story. But for now, I want to introduce everybody. Brian Bean, the broker owner of Dream Big Property Management in Riverside, California. One of like the oldest of the OGs of Vendoroo clientele. I think Brian's been with us for 3 years and he's been through the journey, man. Brian, welcome. Oh, former journalist. Welcome to the show, Brian. I'm not the show, webinar.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry.
Yep, great to be here.
Good to have you. Kogi Hoyos is like the Vendoroo super user in the sense that Kogi actually used to work for us. And he was the AI back in the day. Like he was, working inside the team in Colombia. And then at one point, Brian had the brilliant idea to offer Kogi a job. Kogi went on board with Dream Big Property Management. He has become their head of operations. And Kogi is what I would consider as he's like an under the radar influencer. He's a super user of property management software and tools. He loves giving people advice. He loves sharing the knowledge of it. And because of that, I want to highlight Kogi's like skill set and make him a star in our solar system as well. He's also Juan. If anybody here is Juan's in Juan's accounts, he's Juan's next door neighbor in Colombia. Kogi, welcome to the webinar, man. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks so much for having me here. I'm happy to be part of something like this. Never thought 4 or 5 years ago I started working with you guys, I'll be here talking in a webinar in a different company and seeing all the everything we have achieved, not only in Dream Big but also as Vendoroo.
Pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. Good to have you here. I'm really excited for this. And of course, if you have not been to one of our webinars before, I call David Normand the soul of the product. David is the guy that really cares the most about how much pain property managers go through every single day in dealing with maintenance, because he is someone that has taken the pain. He built a property management company from 0 to 600 doors by just being everyone's guy, being accessible to everybody, sleeping with a phone on his pillow for many, many years to 600 doors until he burned out. Then he went and started managing really big portfolios for financial institutions, post-recession, thousands and thousands of doors of maintenance. And he was doing so well that they pulled him into a room and they asked him if he was cheating, but he wasn't. He just knows how to run maintenance really well. This is what he cares about. And that's why the first version of the AI was downloading Dave's brain into the product so he can be everybody's guy. And now it's been informed by the 500 plus deployments that we've done. But David Norman, Chief PM of Vendoroo, welcome, my friend. Say hi to everybody.
Wow, quite the World Cup introduction there. Appreciate that.
Pew, pew,
Yeah,
pew, pew.
yeah, no, it's nice to see everybody. Love these webinars. It's really great to see familiar names and faces show up. And I do hold a very special place in my heart for Kogi when he talked about, because back in the day, like I still remember Kogi, Natalia, Jessica. I mean, there was like 5 of us, like basically in a virtual room together, just all trying to figure out what this is going to be. And I still will always have very fond memories with that. And I love seeing people like Kogi. I even think about Laura, other people who have moved on in Italia to work with other companies and use that skill set to help spread the great word about what's possible within coordination. So really, really excited for that.
Love it.
By
Love
the
it.
way,
Love it. And
Natalia is on our team as well.
Brian, I
don't
feel
know
like
if you
you
knew that,
figured
but-
out a formula here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
5 A players.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's not as bad as it sounds.
That being said, the other thing that we all love is seeing you in the chat contributing. I love when people are checking in. I love seeing our clients that have become our friends that repeat and come to this webinar. Michelle Berano, thanks for checking in. Key Renner, Metro Property Management. Brian Boulder, who's a consultant out there. Good to see you. Good to see the AI note takers of our dear friends Tim Richards and Jim Shantz checking in. Who else is in here? Lorraine Carrillo. Good to have you. Bill Davey, the AI czar of South Carolina. Good to have you. Natalia, I see you in here as well. I would love to hear if you're here, just kind of check in the chat, use the chat. I'm going to be monitoring it while these guys are giving the story here and giving the advice. And I want to like have your questions answered. But really, the goal of this call is for you to have an experience like Dream Big has had. And what do I mean by that? Dream Big, like we said, Brian Bean was using Vendoroo even before it was Vendoroo. And Brian, as a do-it-all, one-guy show, property management operation, quasi-workaholic, never turned his phone off either. And he was looking for help, right, with AI helping with maintenance, joined, received enough help, enough value to like feel pretty good about it. Hire Kogi, bring him on as operations manager. Kogi came on intimately knowing the product really, really well. And I would say that they were like we see often enough, receiving enough value from AI to feel like, okay, this is really doing something, but not enough to like really be in love with it. And Kogi, knowing what Kogi knows, reached out to me personally, I think around like either January or February early this year. And he said, Pablo, you know, like I love you guys. I love Vendoroo, but I see people out there. I see you guys claiming that people are getting 80, 90% automation, and that's not where we're at. We're at like 60% automation. It's not doing the thing that I was hoping I was doing. I need you to set me up with someone to show me the way. And I knew exactly what to do. I reached out to David. I said, David, Kogi's going through this stuff. I want to make sure that he right sizes this operation for Kogi and Brian. They had a meeting in March, which we're going to discuss what was learned in that meeting. And after that, Dream Big Operation has gone from the typical kind of like AI experience of agents handling only around 60% of automation to never going below 80%, having 90% plus weeks, and really truly feeling that big change, that big kind of like job change of doing better things. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what their goals were when they first started doing it and what their hopes and dreams were for like this thing to work for them. We're going to talk about what they were feeling before that now semi-famous meeting that we hosted, what David saw to teach them and what they learned in that meeting and how it happened and what the outcomes are now, so that if you are a Vendoroo client where you're like, yeah, pretty good, but I want to love it, I want to feel the way that we're talking about it, we want to empower you to have the same transformation that these guys had. So I'll just start there. That's the most I'm going to talk this whole show, because these guys are the ones that are going to share the value. But I do want to start, Brian, what were you as the broker owner when you came on board, even before it was called Vendoroo or whatnot, like what were your, like what was the desired outcome that you wanted to have, and how would you describe the outcomes that you're getting these days?
Yeah, in the beginning, I just needed help, right? I was solopreneur. I don't even remember how many doors we were at that time, 60, 70 maybe, and doing it all myself. We have a lot of older properties in Riverside, homes that I mean, they don't seem that growing up, they were homes that were newer when I was growing up, but we're talking, homes that are now 50 or 60 years old and stuff's failing. And so me personally, I was getting couple of work orders a day running the business on my own. It was running me ragged. So I was looking for a way, like, my ceiling is low right now. I need it to be higher. And so when we started working with you guys, then Tulu, it was a lot of help in the beginning, and it took a lot of pressure off. But over time, you guys are finding your way, we're finding our way, and it was it was helping, but it wasn't the thing yet, right? And as it turned out, it was like, well, maybe we just weren't using it right. And now here we are, almost 3 years later. We've gone from what used to be 10 to 14 days to complete a work order on average to like 4 days. So, which is not quite our goal. I mean, our goal is 3 days, but still 4 days is a dramatic increase and better than the average for the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I love you highlighting that like statistic right there. Like first it was pain related, you just wanted some respite, but like what's the scoreboard? Going from 14 days to complete your average maintenance work order to 4 days when the industry average is like 6.5 or something like that. You guys are really, really crushing it right now. Um, as you'll learn in the story, Brian, this has been a journey for Brian, kind of like like an up and to the right curve with a couple of hiccups. But one of the big moments that I think went up and to the right was when he hired Kogi. And Kogi, I would love for you to just kind of like talk about when you came on board with Brian, what were your goals with maintenance, and kind of like what is the outcomes that you've gotten to right now? And you are muted right now.
So as you already know, like I started with them Vendoroo, so I already knew the product, I already knew how everything was handled, how you guys were supposed to respond to our needs. So it was basically that change from vendor to client was okay, now I'm gonna start using them as a client. I need to make sure they're working at their best. But being so focused with so many things at the same time didn't actually let me jump into the actual what are we doing with Vendoroo? How are we doing it? If we're doing something that's not correct, and how can we improve stuff? And I started working maintenance, and I was running maintenance basically with Vendoroo's help, but I was still too involved. I mean, I spent too much time communicating with vendors, residents, owners, instead of actually relying on Vendoroo to help me doing stuff. I was carrying too much of what was coordination. I was just like, you know what? No, I'll do it myself. I know that I can do it better. I'll just do it myself. I'm not gonna worry about if you're doing it right or not. I'm just gonna let me do it. It takes me a minute to make a phone call to an owner to get an answer, or a resident to get some help. I will do it myself. What I was gonna take into consideration is that a minute on a phone call doesn't mean a minute, and that's all. It means taking time out of my day, stop doing what I'm doing, finding the phone number, then calling, then talking, then getting the answer back to you guys. A 1 minute phone call ended up being a 10-minute stop in my workflow and getting back to what I was doing. 15 minutes lost a day per work order. You start adding that up, and I was spending more than half of my day on maintenance alone. So that was a big pain, and that's when after we were in PM systems with Brian, we were handling some stuff, and I realized like this is not working. We need to do something different. And that's when I said, no, I'm gonna talk to Pablo. I called you, and it was like, man, either we get this resolved, or unfortunately this relationship has to be over.
Yeah.
And that's when you like, no, let me talk to David. I'm pretty sure we can solve things. Things are not that hard. It's just that things should be different. Maybe like I'm gonna put you in the actual place where you need to be and the path to get to that 80-90% automation. So yeah.
Yeah, Kogi. And so you're expressing, I like how it's, to me, what I want everybody to take away from this is Brian, as a business owner, he's just thinking big picture. I want this number to shrink, right? Like I want to be able to look across my stats. I want this number to shrink. Kogi, who sits in the role of maintenance coordinator, he's thinking, cool, numbers shrank, but I'm carrying too much of it. Like the promise of AI, if you're going to bring it in, is for like what Vendoroo is supposed to be promising is that my job doesn't just like get slightly better. It's that I don't have to do this stuff. So I can go focus fully on these other things. And we're going to talk about how we got him there. But David, when you hear those two things, like I know that you're the person that's been like thinking of this product and thinking of this experience for the last 20 years. Does that match like what you had in mind of like what people were expecting, what their like hopes and dreams are, what, like what the experience would be?
Yeah, well, the biggest challenge that, and I know Kogi, and so this is why I was able to go and talk to Kogi, right? And I'm going to tell you that Kogi is just like every other successful operator in this space, right? Where they're having a hard time to navigate and understand the tool that they have now to help them achieve their outcomes without them having to carry the burden of doing it all themselves. Like that's who I was, right? Like that was who I was for 15 or 20 years until it almost killed me, right? No one can do it like me. So I have to build something that is going to do it like me. And that's what I wanted to show Kogi. I'm like, Kogi, this is your employee, and now you can 10x this employee. But you have to be able to, it's desperately trying to figure out one thing. It wants to know you. And if you're always jumping in, and I'm telling you this, I'm doing all the consultancies, and I give everybody this analogy. You hire a new employee. I pick up the phone and I'm on a triage with a resident. Kogi walks over, hangs up the phone, assigns the vendor, and walks away. And I'm the new employee, but doesn't say anything to me, right? I'm sitting there as the employee being like, did I do the wrong thing? Kogi told me to triage. I was asking if they had an Allen wrench in the bottom of the, but Kogi's like, well, I already know what to do. Just do it. Right. And allowing that ability to detach and focus on the knowledge and the outcomes. And I want to share with everybody just one thing that, and then because I know we're going to talk a lot. I want this is, and Kogi, Brian, is it okay if I just share them one thing from your tenant sentiment dashboard real quick that I find that's just amazing? And this is what gives me goosebumps, and this is what I'm so stoked about. Okay, every property management company has a new metric that matters to them, and that is the health of our resident community. Guys, a 70 is unreal. Brian and Kogi currently have, look at this, 88, 85, 88, 85, 88, 85, because their RU is delivering. And you see this here. Someone will be here. Thank you. The vendor was here on time and scheduled, fix the problem. The doors that, like, what else do we want in maintenance? A happy resident community that's achieving goals and outcomes, and to watch their trend. And I've been studying them as they're getting in, and to watch their trend on their automation. I can see that Kogi is understanding that the more he puts of himself into getting this tool to deliver the outcomes, the more that they're going to help achieve their goals as a company. And it's so cool to sit back here and watch it. So I just wanted to say, guys, like, this is awesome, because I watched you guys for a while, Kogi, when you guys were at like in the 60th percentile for a little bit. And now you guys are just bouncing off of 90% of not touching anything. But that automation is improving the satisfaction of your residents because things are getting done faster, right? So these things go hand in hand together. So just huge kudos to you guys on those metrics and helping spread the word of like resident sentiment. And when I knew that Kogi was a control freak, I just had to put that control freak energy, which every single property manager in this industry has, onto the things that matter. And the outcomes came out. And now Brian, also, I had to talk with him and show him that he now has visibility into his maintenance department. So he can be detached from his maintenance department, because he knows that any day he can just come in and look at the overall health of his maintenance department in one shot of his resident tenant and see where things are failing or where things are breaking, why he's working on growth in business, right? So those are the tools that get me super excited that I always wish that I had growing up, just to know what's the health of my maintenance department.
And Brian, we talk about this, like Kogi reaching out to me and like setting up this call. And when we were kind of like getting prepared yesterday, you're like, I didn't even know Kogi did that, right? Like, what was your experience before this? Like I know where you are now, but before this meeting, your perception of kind of like what was going on in maintenance and like how much you had to be involved. Can you tell us a little bit about like your experience of where you were in January, February, in relation to how this is going?
Yeah, so birds of a feather. Kogi and I both have that control freak personality. Unfortunately, that is it's hard to shake that, right? And it's trust issues is really what it is. Back in into last year, it was a little rough. We were having to felt like we had to ride herd a lot on maintenance to make sure that things were getting closed out properly, that vendors were getting assigned. Sometimes work orders were sitting, it felt like, for days and not even being assigned to a vendor. And so that's originally we were talking about my pain, like that I was trying to relieve my pain in the beginning, which we did, which allowed us to grow, which allowed us to bring Kogi in to help run things. But my pain then got transferred to him, right? And so it was reaching a critical point at the end of last year and into the beginning of this year. We were having this conversation actually at Systems in January, how to get him some help. And yeah, I didn't know that he had reached out to you directly, but I think I'm so thankful he did. You know, having someone who cares enough in the business to, want to figure out even if you got to go outside, figure out like how we're going to solve this problem. That's like such a blessing to us. Yeah. And here we are now. I mean, if he hadn't made that phone call to you, then we might not even be here today. We might be with someone else. And so thank goodness, because it opened up that aha moment that we were talking about. It really revealed that. It's like, oh, we just need to, we're just not using the tool correctly. That's really.
And Brian, at the time, you were still kind of like checking in on everything, right? Like you were still going in and like jumping into work orders is the way that I understand it when that was happening.
Well, yeah, it was coming full circle, right? Because if things weren't getting assigned, then I'm getting phone calls and emails and texts from angry residents, and I'm hearing from our clients as well. And so the drama is starting to come back, and now I'm starting to lose trust. And so I'm like, did that get handled? Hey, Kogi, did whatever happened with that? Right. So I'm following up on almost everything now to make sure that it's getting handled. That's just lumping more responsibility onto Kogi and more stress onto him at the same time. Right. And so, yes, I'm at that point now I'm becoming a helicopter parent. Right. I'm just like, I need to know that this is being handled. So, yeah.
Excellent. Kogi, you were at your wit's end. It's not like when you talk to me, you're like, Pablo, other kind of backstory is I saw Kogi at the Renvine conference, not this one, but the one before, just gushing about another service provider in front of a group of people. And I was like, Kogi, what's it going to take for you to like gush about us the way that you did about them? So Kogi picked up the phone. He's like, Pablo, I want to gush about you guys, but here's what you need to do for me. And you basically told me that you were at your wit's end. You were thinking about hiring somebody, right? Instead of like going the AI route. You wanna tell me what it felt like at that moment when you made that call, kind of like what you were feeling?
Everything we have going through basically with Vendoroo, I was just thinking like maybe this is not the right tool for us right now. It's not actually what we're looking for and an actual solution to our maintenance coordination need. And that was before the meeting. And I was seeing like your newsletters and emails about companies with the 90% plus AI automation, and I was like it's a different company. What are they doing? I even connected with I think it was Bill David. I can't remember.
Yeah, Bill's in the house.
Yeah, we had a meeting. He explained to us what he was doing, how he was doing, and I'm like, so it is possible. It's actually possible to get here. It's just a matter of we're doing something different. We need to focus on other stuff instead of like doing what we have to keep doing for the last 2 or 3 years. And maintenance was being a really big of a burden for me. I was spending too much time working on stuff. Brian was on top of me, and a lot of those answers were not even Vendoroo's answers. It was me relying into the system, trying to get things done. And it was not that helpful, everything, because again, I was not using the system on how we were supposed to be using the system.
Yeah.
I was just relying on them, as a maintenance coordinator, but not exactly how you guys have built the system to. Something that Brian said yesterday, is like we were like, you guys were evolving and we were not actually evolving with you at the same time. We were just left behind, not because of you, of what you guys have been doing, but because of us. Because of those trust issues about, okay, is this really gonna be helpful? Is this really, are they are actually gonna be able to handle the work order themselves? Or do I have to do it myself? And that made me like just lose my mind one day and like talk to you and said, like, you know what? I asked Brian, hey, how much are we paying for this? I can get someone in Colombia for that amount and have someone internally build my own chat with all my knowledge and make sure we can get the tool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
grateful that didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, thanks for illustrating that. Like I really dove into that piece. I know that everybody's here for this next segment, right? Like what did they do to get there and what does that look like, right? But I wanted to spend some time there because if you are feeling that way, right? Like not everybody gets to be Bill Davy, who's been like figured this out on day one and is the AI czar, right? Like this feeling that Kogi felt, that Brian felt, like this is not, this happens because this thing changes so quickly. If you've been around for a while, maybe you have like, past expectations. If you're new, maybe it just hasn't clicked for you yet, right? But like the point is that Kogi and Brian did not land on the top of the mountain one, like they didn't just like arrive on the top of the mountain. They climbed it. And and everybody here on this call, if that's what you're trying to accomplish, it's very, very, very possible, right? So this is how, right? This is the path to the top of the mountain, David. I'm going to start with you. When I reached out to you, I'm like, hey, dude, I need you to do this for me. I need you to hop on with Kogi because I want Kogi to be our influencer. I want him gushing about us in front of like 20 people like you did at Rentvine. You're like, cool. David hopped in and within 10 minutes started slacking me. I see exactly what's going on. Like you were able to see it inside the software immediately and you immediately started building an action plan of what you're going to teach him. So Dave, what I would love for you to like start with is like start when you dove in, what were you looking for? What did you see? And as you were preparing to teach them what you taught them at this meeting,
Yeah.
walk me through that.
I think what we are all going to struggle with in this industry is that we have been in the third party maintenance mindset and vendor provider mindset for our entire, that's just where we're in. That's just how we operate, right? People are looking at Vendoroo as a third party maintenance provider. And I can see by the way that, when Brian and Kogi are looking at it and we had some real conversations. I can say like, I can see by the way that you're communicating, who are you talking to? I don't know who you're talking to because there's nobody on the other side. And Kogi's like, no, there's people on the other side. It's like, Kogi, those people don't exist in that department anymore. It's Rue, right? And so when you're thinking about, I'm not like, again, I go back to like when I'm using a third party maintenance service provider, I can call them up and just be like, you guys are taking too long to do things. If you don't get it fixed, I'm going to fire you. Right. And then they scramble and they have to do so. Everybody knows that human. But with Rue's like, okay, but like, how do we get better? Like, I type in when I work with, Claude and I'm kind of, people laugh at me, but when I work with Claude, I write things like, hey, Claude, good morning. I'm just really having some thoughts here today. And I'm just like really trying to achieve some stuff. And like, I appreciate if you would help me do this or help you do that. Because this is the way that I would speak to like one of my employees. And I'm having such an interaction with the tools and stuff that I build and the responses that I'm getting that I'm mimicking the same relationship that you're hired an employee. And if it doesn't start like, you have to name your room, right? I always tell everybody that. First thing is like, you got to name your room. You need to know that you hire them. And there's one thing that everybody in this industry knows how to do. We all know how to hire an employee and to train them. And I can see by the data which property management companies are really good at hiring and training employees and which property managements may need some coaching on hiring employees and training the employees by the stuff, right? And so when we just got real, and then I remember the moment and I knew that I had Kogi. And Kogi, who is a professional and is an operator, and this is what you said to me, Kogi. Kogi sat back in his chair and looked at me and he goes, well, I know how to talk to AI. And I was like, well, then talk to it that way. And then like instantly I just knew that it clicked, that he had a tool that he could tell it and work with it and do it and help it create it. And he was no longer talking or interacting with a human or a third-party maintenance provider. Right? I see all day long, and I look at thousands and thousands and thousands of messages where I'm looking at people that are just using, and again, to the analogy, they're hanging up the phone on their employee and they're not telling it why. And then they're wondering why they're not getting the results, right?
Yeah.
You have a new employee, and we all know it's very clear data. The person that spends 2x the time training their new employee in the first 30 days achieves 85% automation or higher. The person who doesn't sits around 60% and struggles and doesn't use the tools. It is like as black and white as that is everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And so think about it. If you hired a new employee and you had a great program, you invested in all your love and all your care and all your passion into them, the chances of that employee succeeding. So that's the big context break that I think that we really focused on. And when Kogi latched onto that, then he knew he had an ultimate employee on his hands.
Nice. Kogi, you mentioned this specifically yesterday. You were like, I was talking to it wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like David's talking about feedback, but what does the feedback look like? What is the right way to talk to it? Like how were you talking to it before and what changed? What's the right way that you learned of how to talk to Rue?
So first I want to add something to what David said regarding training. And that's something people sometimes don't understand about AI. Sometimes they think that because it's AI and it has an intelligence, it knows what to do, even if you're not explaining what you actually want or need. Sometimes you expect it to read your mind or to work, to do things as if it has a logic like a human. And even when you hire someone that has been working with you for 6 months, I have been working with Ryan for almost 2 years, and he still teaches me things daily. Why are you stopping to teach your AI? It's the same thing. It's just an extra employee you have to keep teaching. So that's when we come into what I realized that day. I was not talking to a human anymore like it was before. I was just, hey, what are you, literally, I remember saying, what are you doing this, and not sending a vendor? A human might be able to understand that. And I was talking to Brian like, why are they doing this if I'm instructing them to do something different? And that's when we jumped in with David, and he said, like, you're not talking to a human anymore. That's AI. That's when I said, like, I know how to talk to AI. I just need more context, structure. I need to give them specific instructions on how I want things done. And if it's something for one case scenario, that might be just one instruction with a really long like context. Or if I want this to happen every single time on my work orders, I just need to add it into the policies and guidelines to make sure it always happens the same way. And I don't have this issue again about coming back and saying, shit, this is not working.
I just got operational goosebumps right there when he just said, if I know that's context in this one work order, I know to do this. But if I want to make a global change, I just submit to Root, change my policies and do my stuff. Like literally, like that is how easy to meet people now. And now Kogi, who is a control freak, right? We're all going to have t-shirts because we're all control freaks.
We figured out swag today.
Yeah. He now has mastery over his entire portfolio and can make system changes in 30 seconds that would affect the outcomes of everybody in his portfolio like that. Like that's the cool part about me as an operator, right? We just helped an operator. This true story. This just happened. I did a consultation for them, right? They have 1,000 doors, okay? Multi-family mix and single families in the Northeast. So it's a tougher area, whatever, right? They are now bouncing around 92% automation. And this one guy with 1,000 doors, he's like, I think I'm just going to run. I'm like doing this all by myself. And he's at 1,000 doors right now. And he's crushing it along that line because he makes these connections between I can affect it at the property level or I can affect things globally. So I love that, Kogi. That's real insight.
Let's get granular. What I'm hearing from you guys is context, which is essentially why I'm making this request, and knowing where to actually put the request, like whether like one thing is in the work order or it's in the policies and procedures. How would you explain that, Kogi? Like, how would you explain what context looks like, and how you make the decision between just telling Rue, hey, just do it in this work order versus going back to policies and procedures?
Well, of course, it depends a lot on what's going on. Sometimes it's specific context about and that's something that a lot of times it's on us that we don't have that context on the places it needs to be, like maintenance notes, or inside of Vendoroo system on specific properties. So I sometimes have to give an extra context about, hey, this property needs this specific vendor. This property has a home warranty, or this specific appliance has a warranty. So if you have an issue in the future, go back to this and not start assigning people right away. That most of the time is on us. Again, you have to keep training your AI because it's an employee, because things change, because sometimes you want to do things different today because tomorrow there's a new law or whatever that it's going to affect how you're handling work orders. And then when I want something to be done across the board, it's basically most of the time it has to be dealing with triage and troubleshooting, making sure communications are on time, follow-ups, if how do I want to follow up with specific vendors, how do I want the AI to communicate with owners or to residents. And I just have to go to the chat and said, hey, make sure you include this into our policies. I want for every now on, like from now on, and every single text message to include this, or this. In some cases, it might be, it happens a lot that I realized it was related to one specific work order, but this will help the rest of the work orders. Yeah. Like yesterday, I was having issues with an appliance vendor that it was a recall, and by, I don't know, he rejected the second work order created as a recall. And I was like, no, I mean, you guys, this cannot happen. We cannot assign a second vendor if it is a recall. And we created a policy like, hey, from now on, if we have a recall and the vendor rejects the work order, I want you to be persistent with that vendor, if not escalate it to me, and I will get that resolved and I'll talk to the vendor. But now I'm not having to deal with this in day zero. I just have to deal with escalations or with specific cases that need my attention.
Yeah, and so, I don't want to gloss over what Kogi just said right there about that recall, right? And the behavior before. Here's the behavior before. Why are you assigning it to the next vendor? This is a recall. Rue's like, that
was literally before. That was literally what I was doing. I was like, why are you assigning a second vendor if it is a recall? The AI doesn't understand that because it's not. I'm not talking to you human anymore. And that's what people doesn't understand. I have,
you have a policy. It says if the vendor doesn't respond after 4 times, I move on to the next one.
Exactly. I literally have a case here that I can show you guys later how I use the actual extension with my I live in Rendvine and Appley. If anyone has known me in any of the conferences, I recommend Rendvine and Appley to everyone. I love Appley with my heart. So I just spend my time in those two places. I usually receive an email on the maintenance email about a work order. I jumped into the work order and it says, this vendor has rejected the work order and a new vendor has been assigned. And I'm like, what? That cannot happen. I open the work order from my email, open it in Rendvine, then click on the extension, and then I start talking to the AI instead of having to go through a lot of people or calling and sending emails. And yesterday, same vendor was assigned to 2 work orders. One was the recall, another one was a new one. He said, I'm not able to help you with this one. He rejected the actual work order. And then a second vendor, our second option, was assigned to this work order for appliances. And I'm like, why? Instead of freaking out and why this second vendor got assigned, I just went to the room and asked, why did you guys assign the second vendor? Or like, why is the second vendor assigned if our context says the first vendor should be a different one? And the rule automatically said, oh, at this time of the day, and with this message, they rejected saying they don't have technicians available in the area. So we follow the procedure and assign the second vendor. All that happened within minutes. I didn't have to freak out anymore. I knew things were getting done. And it was just because, again, I'm a control freak and I needed to know if it was a mistake or if it was an actual policy that instructed you. Yeah. Exactly. A decision that said, okay, first vendor rejected, second vendor has to be assigned. And not just because you guys wanted to assign a second vendor instead of the first one. Now I know that if I see a second vendor, it's not because you guys are just assigning whatever you want. It's because the first vendor rejected. And I don't have to be on top of the AI every single day trying to get answers. I just trust that if it worked this time, it will keep working because the AI already knows how and why my things are.
And Pablo, what he just said right there is a key word, is where I tell everybody is like, when we're looking at the dashboard, we now know that we can trust, but we verify, right? We're working on other things. If we have it set up, we're trusting, we can go in and we can just verify. And from time to time, asking Rue, looking at the little brain, why'd you make that decision? Why you did that? And the whole time while Brian's sitting there and as he's growing his business, right? And he's bringing on new people. He can just look at the overall health of his company and his tenant sentiment score. He can see that things are going well, right? I don't know, Brian, maybe in other words, maybe even start using these types of features to be able to close new deals. You know, what other competitor in your neighborhood is saying, we actually track, you know, the communications between our residents and vendors, look at overall the quality and health. There's a lot of really cool stuff that I think is going to open up doors to attract new and exciting investors that are coming into the rental space with these types of tools. But I love that, Kogi, that trust but verify. That's the mindset. That's the new control.
I love that you said trust but verify, because to me that's where I want Brian to jump in. Brian, you went through like a transition of like overseeing everything to trust but verify. Was there an aha moment in this meeting that allowed you to understand that you were going to be able to get there? Or, you know, like how did you get there?
It's so funny we're talking about, because on the weekends I might have to pick something up if there was an emergency work order or whatnot, and I would go in and look, and I would literally type in, why did we assign this vendor? And because before we sat down in March, we were both under the impression that that the escalation person on the backside of vendor was a person, like that the communication was so clean that we thought it was a human being. And so we thought we were talking with not Rue, but whoever, right?
Kogi 2.0.
And so, and in that communication, I mean, it's kind of a human nature thing, is like when I ask, or when you ask somebody, hey, why'd you do that? You're not necessarily, I mean, you're communicating that was probably not the right thing to do. And also there's an assumption between humans when they talk, right? That you're communicating that. But the AI is not, it has no idea what that means, right? You have to be very specific and say, yes, I see that you did it this way. I don't want you to do it that way in the future. I would like you to do it this way. This is the proper way. Rather than communicating that in such a way like, why'd you do that, right? It's just a different way. And so what we took away from that meeting was like, yeah, we're talking to a computer. You know, we're talking to this program, a very sophisticated program, but it doesn't understand what it needs to do in that situation. So we need to train it. And so when we came away from that meeting, it was like, okay, these are the things that we need to do. And we dove into it like within days. You know, we had it like we were really dialing in the context policy wise and even property wise where necessary, and we're continuing to. And that whole thing about it was a mindset change that, okay, we're not dealing with necessarily a third party. This truly is an employee. And whenever we bring a new person in, we spend a full day just on, you know, culture and how we treat people and our first principles. You know, we spend a whole day on that. We probably need to train Rue on our first principles, you know, because it needs to understand why we do what we do, right? Yeah. So it can make better decisions. And so that trust but verify point, what used to be for me jumping in and wanting confirmation on every single work order that it got done, or that it whatever the correction needs to be at that moment. Now I can sit back and say, you know, provide and be more trusting. And that is exceedingly difficult for me. And I'm not there yet. You know, I still ask Kogi questions like, hey, did that get handled? Yeah, don't worry about it. It got handled. Okay. Yeah. I need fewer details now, because I've seen the numbers like, oh, okay, it's working.
That's awesome. Yeah. This is the part of the call. Brian, thank you for sharing that, man. I want to share what this looks like graphically. I think we'd like to share screens and kind of like show what's going on behind the scenes. I just want to show here in the AI automation, this is Dream Big's command center. These are the last 14 weeks. This is when the meeting happened, right? Like this was March 23rd. when this meeting happened. As you can tell before this, they're like up and down here in this, in the 60s, then like a good week, man, everything feels good. And then, back to nothing, like, and then as you can tell now, after that, it just became an up and to the right trend, right? So like, as soon as they started implementing this stuff, the new low was 71, and then after that, since the end of April, they haven't dipped below 81%. And you can see here that it's really more like high 80s, 97%, 85, 89, 89, 87%. Like this is the big change that we talk about, that we're going to get louder and louder about. It's that this might look like there isn't a big slope here, but the difference in how it feels of having 67% of your work orders automated to 88%, 90%, 92% is this difference of like feeling like as a maintenance coordinator, you got to be code switching and changing tasks and jumping into things versus letting it do its thing and only jumping into like a certain amount of things, but being able to go through your day without having to switch tasks. And as a broker owner, this idea that you like really start to trust but verify instead of having to be completely on top of it. This is what it looks like visually. And I love that it's like, this was the week that the meeting happened. And as soon as it turned on for these guys, this is where it went. So I just wanted to show that to everybody. Kogi, did you say you want to show how you set this up and how you interact? Because I know for you it was important to not just be switching tasks, but not be switching software. Show how you use this thing without having to be like outside of your.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. Sometimes we overcomplicate stuff when we said, oh, I'm doing this, and we try to get answers out of like big names on the industry about what they're doing with AI. But sometimes simple works more than anything else. So I got to this work order just by
Kogi, first describe
I
what we're
don't
looking
have
at in case somebody doesn't use
so
Redline or whatever.
I use Apply. I don't have my email, like the actual email here, but basically, if you guys use Renvine, you receive a notification via email about a work order when a vendor is assigned or when a vendor rejected the work order. And how I do this is that certain hours of my day, I check the maintenance email, I check how maintenance is going. If I have any questions, I'll jump into Renvine actually and work from Renvine. I don't ever actually jump into the Vendoroo's website because everything can be handled from here. I just go into Renvine. I can either click here or click here on the extension, and it automatically knows everything about the work order here. They have the chat, communication, so I can see what has been talked between residents, vendors, owners, and Vendoroo, if any media has been shared or not, and if I have any pending escalations on this specific work order. And this was what I was talking earlier today. This vendor was assigned. I saw the name, and I was pretty weird because our first option for appliances is usually available every single time. So I literally, instead of going through a lot of people trying to get answers, I just came here. Why was this vendor assigned? And the AI automatically said, oh, this vendor was assigned based on trade fit because of this issue. It was an appliance repair. There was no property specific history regarding previous vendors for this specific property. I love this because that means if any point in time in the past, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, we had a same issue with the washer and dryer, the AI would automatically assign that vendor instead of going through the usual process. And then it went through the preferred vendor list. And the first vendor said, hey, I'm sorry, but I'm not available. And Sam, the second vendor, was assigned as a backup only if the first one is not available, which was that happened because the appliance repair professionals declined on June 9, 3:16 p.m. due to not technicians available in the area. A minute later, I knew that I didn't have to worry anymore about this, close the chat, and continue with my day. This is what I'm talking about, how everything is pretty easy and simple in terms of communication and updates. I don't have to worry a lot about finding questions, reaching out to maintenance coordinators, reaching out to a lot of people via email, text messages, or phone calls. I can just ask a question and get an answer pretty quick.
Yeah, that's
That was
that's
basically
a great
that's where I
illustration.
live my daily. that extension, Renvine and Athlete, that's where I spend most of my day. And if I need anything, and I can communicate there. If there's something that has to be escalated to a human in the loop, how you guys have that name? Hey, I need this escalated to a human in the loop. I need this done because it might be a task that is not for AI, like requesting a specific, like if I have a specific question regarding an estimate, I can just set the instruction there for our reporter. The system will automatically know, and they can get the answer back to me within a few hours, which is what I want. Now I don't have to worry about being behind someone, asking questions, or remembering everything you have to remember when you're dealing with maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah. So like simple illustration of going from doing the communications yourself to just having your teammate do it for you without having to like ever leave your software or anything like that. That's like the big shift there that allows you to not have to like switch your tasks, just kind of like pop in, prompt it one way and continue doing what you're doing without interrupting your team. Yeah.
Basically.
Awesome. We've got a couple of questions that people are asking. Sheila's asking, because what Kogi was showing basically is that we have the Chrome extension that plugs into different PMS softwares. Sheila uses one called MRI, which is similar to Yardi. David, do you know if our Chrome extension works over the top of MRI?
Is this somebody that is a current client or somebody that's watching? So I'm not familiar with that software. So yeah, reach out to us. I don't know if that's something that's like we have Yardi, Building, Rent Manager, Appfolio, Propertyware, like all the major systems. So I haven't heard of that one. So.
Okay, cool. And somebody had asked earlier, and this might be good for you to answer, Kogi. Is there a way to fix owner communication in the system? Only one owner receives notifications, whether two, and it is causing major issues. Oh, only one owner receives notifications when there are two owners, and it's causing major issues. Is that something that you know how to fix in the system, Kogi? Or is that a David question?
I think it's more a David question. Okay. What happens with us is that we usually don't have those issues because there's one owner who's more involved. But what has happened in cases where we need two owners like communicated, I have made that clear on the notes, and I have seen that works. Like, please communicate with both vendors, or this specific owner has to be received notifications when something is going on, and that usually resolves the issue.
David, how's that answer?
So, right, we have to understand what is trying to be achieved here. Is this a prompt that we're saying that we have both locations that are arriving, owner locations that are in the work order? There's two email addresses, and does Vencom need to know for this property? So if you have that specific case, what I ask you to do is just submit in a ticket through PMRoo to your AI adoption advisor, let them know what you're trying to achieve in those cases, and they can help create flows and show you how to add two locations for owners and set prompts for Vencom to hopefully be able to, Erica, one of our AAA adoption advisors, chiming in here right now. So yeah, they'll help you out.
Yeah, so it sounds like Lorraine added notes and it wasn't working. So it is go into PMRoo, send it to your AI adoption advisor, and they can create that custom work order like Erica is saying. Okay, we did let our rep Taylor and Owen know. All right, so Taylor and Owen know already. So maybe check in with that, David, with Taylor and Owen. All right, that being said, I feel like we've gone through a lot of stuff. Is there anything else, fellas, that you wanted to share here before we just open it wide open to questions? I know, Kogi, you wanted to talk about like the importance of support. Is it?
Yeah, that's something I realized yesterday talking to you, and you have always told me like, Kogi, I want you to be like an evangelist for us, like talked about Vendoroo, how we do what we do. I do recommend vendors in the space. I always recommend Apply, Renvine, SceneSpectre, Vendoroo now, of course, because support is amazing. In something that a lot of people don't understand or didn't take into consideration that much when making this decision, support is one of the main things when you want to work with a vendor, because it's a completely brand new tool. You don't know how to use it. Sometimes it makes mistakes. Sometimes things doesn't work. Like you have to know someone is going to be holding your hand while you get a hold of the tool. And that has happened with us in the past where unfortunately, we have to stop using vendors because we're not getting the support at all. And even before that meeting, I love that meeting, post meeting thing. Pre meeting, even when things were not going the best way, we never lost support from you guys. We were always in communication. I always had someone there trying to help me doing things. And that's really important when you want to start working or consider working with a specific vendor. And more in this industry that we are in this property management space, that a lot of great people are talking about tools, what to do, how to do it, next steps. But sometimes it feels really alone. Sometimes you feel that you're fighting for your owners, dealing with residents and vendors, and nobody else there to help you get to those big goals. When you have support teams in all these different vendors, you can achieve things a lot easier. So yeah, if someone is ever considering Vendoroo, their support team is amazing. Not because I live next to Juan and because I've known him for more than 20 years. That doesn't have to be anything with this. But yeah, support is amazing. Again, this is not the space, but if someone has any questions regarding Vendoroo, Apple, Rent Vines, Inspector, I'm more than happy to recommend those companies and to actually help you guys. I mean, that's why we're here. Something that I have learned from Vendoroo, from Brian, from a lot of people in this property management space is if you help someone at the end, that's gonna come back to you, and nothing feels better than helping someone with their business, with their stress. We had really great conversations that we heard this year with people struggling with not only Vendoroo, but with other companies. And I'm like, you have to do this, this, and this. Things can be different.
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up, man, because it's almost like the two things that we will die on the vine talking about. Not to, no pun intended, talking so much about Rent Vine. The two things that we'll die on the vine talking about here at Vendoroo is number one, the difference between 60% automation and 80+% automation is the difference between being stuck in the thing that you were doing before and moving on and doing work the way that you've always wanted to, which is like kind of like a central theme here. But the other piece is this AI transformation piece, like real transformation, not just incremental change. It's hard and you need support. And we have bet really, really big on our support team and the fact that this is exactly what people need to get over it. So, our ability to hop on with someone, your ability to have a AAA advisor, to have someone hand holding you as you're onboarding, as you're normalizing, as you continue to grow, as it changes and you need to like readjust your things is something that we really take a lot of pride in. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Kogi. And Brian, I know that, to Kogi's point of like support and help that you need. I know that you had an aha moment yesterday that you were talking about sharing as well.
Well, I mean, maintenance is the most critical issue that we deal with in property management, right? It's the main reason that people come and go, right? It's the number one reason that managers get fired. It's the number one reason that people will give up and sell their rental properties because it's, to go back to your philosophy, which it's the KTAs, right? It's the kitchen table arguments, right? It is the thing. It's the thing that will, besides vacancy, it's the thing that will kill your profitability as a rental property owner. And so making sure that there's so many reasons to try to make sure that it gets done right and fast and affordably. If our goal is to help people run profitable businesses, right? That's what we're really here for, right? Then we have to ride herd on those things. And if it's the most important and most difficult thing, then we need to make sure that it's being done right. And so having the tools and the services and the people around us who are able to do that well is right up there. It's top 3 in what we need to be able to do every day. By the way, Kogi touched on it. Is like, I think it's Zig Ziglar said it, help people get what they want and you'll have everything you need. The happy byproduct that we get from making sure that we're doing well in this arena is that our business grows, that our jobs are easier, that our stress levels are lower. And that's just the byproduct of doing a good job for people. So the other point I think that's important that I take away from it is, for you fellow control freaks out there, is that you kind of got to let it run. If you get in a car and jam it in gear and stomp on the gas, and then you're going 3 miles an hour, and you're looking around going, what the heck's going on? Why aren't we speeding down the road? It's like, well, you got the emergency brake on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's there for emergencies. Yeah, but it's only there for emergencies, right? Let it go and trust that it's, you can move down the road a lot faster if you take the emergency brake off. So that is a work in progress for me. That trust, it's I feel like I'm a lot better at it right now, but I still got a ways to go. And but I do feel more confident that I'm going to get there. So
Awesome. Thanks for that. And I'll say, before I give you the last words here, David, two things. One, David just shared his email in the chat, right? Like it's but you just shared it only to hosts and panelists, David. So I just reshared
Oh,
it.
sorry.
Yeah. So we are here to help, right? Like the support system is there for you. If you don't feel like you're getting the right answer, it's still not doing it. Do what Kogi did. Just like reach out to somebody else, right? Like maybe sometimes it just takes somebody else to see it from different eyes to really help you. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's David, sometimes your AAA is able to do it, but I promise you that we are all here very invested in your success and want to help. And with that being said, you guys, man, Kogi and Brian, I really, really appreciate the heck out of you guys. Talk about like you'll get everything you want by doing things for others. You guys doing this for us, right? Like trusting us with the business, coming on this webinar to like share kind of like what's working for you, and the way that you guys have been such good partners for us is something that I really, really, truly appreciate. So thank you guys for doing this, for taking the time to do it, for sticking with it, right? Like for believing in it and like pushing through to get here. We're super pumped, and I'm super pumped to see you guys' results and like the way that your business is growing and how all that's going. And with that, I'll give David kind of like a last word of like final takeaway here.
Okay. Well, closing, I'm going to do a little sneak preview for all you that hung out here to the end of something that is coming very soon. So your command center, right? We know that the frontline people are dominating and we're helping them understand how to use these tools. But the owner of the company, right, now has insights to be able to see just what the health of his business are and what's going on, right? So the command center, just giving you a sneak peek. This is going to be out hopefully next week. Yeah, cool. Active work orders, my emergencies, and stuff that I have coming in, right? Effort, okay? Check this out. This guy has 800 doors. His RU coordinator, when you think about effort, in the last 30 days has done 20,000 points of communication for his office, okay? 122 of issues that RU was able to resolve a maintenance work order in the last 30 days without anybody even having to come in, okay? You're talking about bandwidth you're moving from your team. Know the actual amount of communications that are happening inside of your company, okay? Detailed breakdowns into every step and flow of the work order, okay? Understanding where things are getting stuck. Kogi, where do you have to write prompts or make things or changes when you guys are getting stuck? We're no longer just looking at the 4 days. So Brian, you want to get down to a third day? We'll tackle one of these blocks now. This isn't yours, but this is right. So tackle one of these blocks. Knock one of these down to 2 days and you hit your goal. How about just seeing how long it's taking for your team to respond to your employee, right? I always say this to everybody. Imagine I walked into your office. Imagine, Brian, you sent me a Slack message and it took me 3 days to respond to you and I'm your employee. You'd probably be pulling me into your office and asking why. What about employee to employee relationship, right? Let's measure those things, okay? But it gets better than that, okay? Why are things falling apart, okay? What are costs are being spent and who am I spending, what owners are spending the most money, okay? And then the big holy grail of everything. Who's getting my work? How much money am I giving to them? And most important, Kogi, as you know, nothing matters more than the reliability of the endpoint of a vendor. How many work orders am I sending him and how many work orders is he accepting? Those that have high acceptance rates should have easy workflows with AI. Those that have bad acceptance rates should have tough work orders with AI. Shows you all their cost metrics, everything that's breaking down, and obviously if they're responding to your maintenance coordinator or not. So as owners of the company, you have insights into your maintenance department that I've been desperately wanting for 20 years, and it is here. And again, and I will reinforce this at the end of the day, it all comes down to this one thing. What is the health of my maintenance department? With that, I'll end, Pablo.
David,
That
real
is
quick,
coming out.
clarification. Is that for all tiers? Bill Davies asking, does everybody get that dashboard?
There will be limited views for tier 1 because we want people, but that is definitely a full coordination tier 2 and above. All that information, yes, that is for tier 2 and above. There will be some enhancements for people that are on engaged, but if you're doing coordination, it's gonna be rocking and rolling, man. Rocking and
Awesome.
rolling. I'm excited about this. A lot of depth.
And Bill, I had another question from earlier that I didn't notice. Is there anything in the works for policy changes that will apply retroactively to work orders already in the system?
Is there anything in the works for
That's a good
policy
question, David.
changes? What was that, Kogi?
I have the same question.
Yeah. Rephrase it though.
Just like a new policy that you're gonna add into the system that will actually apply to the work orders that are
Oh,
already
to
created.
the work orders that are already in existence. Yes.
Yes.
I understand it. It is. If I solve that, we'll all be having beers on Mars because that's the complexity of trying to apply retroactive things onto those work orders. But it's something that we are trying to figure out. If we could figure out AI routing, which detects which messages in the atmosphere go to which work orders, without having vendors having to log into an app, I think we can solve this. But that's a challenging equation that we're working on. So noted, though, Bill. Noted.
So in the works, but not on the horizon, is what
Soon to come.
Yeah.
What's
Once
on the
we get to
horizon?
Mars.
Another sneak peek: intelligent vendor routing and scheduling for in-house technicians for scheduling management. Routing them, scheduling all their days, filling out their calendars for them. That's actually in beta testing for sure.
Cool.
So
again, I just want to appreciate you guys for being here. And I really want
Yeah.
to appreciate the 28 folks that are still here. Like, I just thank you for trusting us with your time. Thank you for investing in learning this. Again, if you are not getting these results, reach out to your AAA. If something feels off of like maybe the AAA isn't getting it, reach out to David, reach out to me. We'll figure out who you have to talk to so that you get there. And I just want to say one thing. Brian, you said yesterday, like, it was very hard for you. Like when we were just prepping for this call, you're like, every Zoom call that I was on before, I used to also have to be on my phone, also have to be emailing and stuff like that. I love that the two of you have been able to be like fully present for this webinar, and it doesn't seem like you're multitasking at all. You know, like knowing that your stuff is being
I'm
handled.
that good at multitasking. That's why you didn't notice.
All right,
No, I'm just
cool.
kidding. Yeah.
I'm not
I
surprised.
mean, every time I check my phone today it was just to check a WhatsApp message or something like that. It was not to be worried about maintenance, which was not how it was to be, like how it was before. And I'm happy for that. Like Brian, I this is not something really big, but like 3 weeks ago, Brian was able to take a Sunday off, which is incredible for Brian. So I'm pretty sure that we're getting there. Every day Brian is leaving office earlier. So I'm happy because I know that has to do with a lot of maintenance and with everything we're doing to improve.
Love it. All right. That's it for us. Hope to see you on the next webinar. Gentlemen, thanks a million once again, and we'll
Thanks
see
to you
soon.
guys. I appreciate it. Yeah.